Yeah, I don't think my son was I don't think Gabe was liking my Jim Morrison singing this morning.
Oh,
Just got to
no?
get them into the doors.
Uh,
What is the appropriate age to get kids involved and interested in the doors? I feel like 9 is the right age.
9 or 10, I'm in that camp.
They've got to learn about psychedelics at some point. You know, that is
Oh my gosh. I'm
How do you
so proud of our generation.
yeah. That
well,
makes 2 of
We
us. You know,
yeah,
they grow
well,
up so
okay.
fast.
You
Uh,
gotta teach them the classics, you know?
that's right.
And,
Yeah, my kids could not be less interested in the music that I'm into, and I think that'll change. I mean, I'm bombarding them with, like, constant anything from classic rock to folk music to, whatever
folk
else,
music. Alright.
bluegrass. I'm trying to give them as much of an eclectic sampling of my musical tastes as possible, hoping that one will stick. Do your kids play any instruments, Brandon?
Yeah, so I'll start with my younger daughter. My middle child plays the flute. Then my
Oh, nice.
oldest is my, musical, kid. She plays, clarinet for regular band and for jazz band, and, marching band, and then she switches and plays the tenor saxophone as well
Oh.
for jazz band. So
So you
she
got
Ah,
the
dual threat.
brass family. Everyone's in the brass
yeah.
category, huh?
She's a double threat.
Oh, is the
Uh,
clarinet is a woodwind, isn't it?
and saxophone's a woodwind.
The
Mhm.
saxophone is also a woodwind. You're right
Yep,
about
Takes
that.
great
yeah,
lung capacity.
yeah. I was a
Can
saxophone
she
player.
can she do the Kenny G circular breathing?
No, she prefers her clarinets, but, her music teacher got her to practice and, take on the tenor sax for jazz band.
Did I hear you say you played
No, I was a
Brand?
saxophone player back in the day.
You were a saxophone player,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
An alto, not a tenor, so
That
could not use
Is that the big
use
one?
my
wow.
instrument. No,
Is
that's
the
the
alto
small.
the smaller one's the alto? Okay.
Yeah, alto's the small one, then it's a tenor, then the baritone's the big one.
The baritone's the big monster
Yeah,
that you
the
yeah,
bari
he's
sax.
Yeah.
yeah.
Before you got on, Dave, Brandon was talking a little bit about the conference there in Philadelphia scene and what he's doing, and I know he's got a big day, so, um, we're
Yeah,
going
ICMA's in
to
Philly. We started
yeah.
yesterday. We have, full day sessions today, and we wrap up tomorrow, and then,
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm going with a few ICMA board members down to, UDEL, for an event with some students,
Mm,
so and then I get home. I'm home Saturday, and then we head off to APMEM, the State
Pittsburgh
Managers
on Sunday.
Association in
yeah.
Pennsylvania on Sunday, and won't be back until I hightail it back following Wednesday for a board meeting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my wife
Well,
isn't
have a good time. I'm
super
gonna miss
thrilled.
both those conferences. I'm not
Me
quite back
too.
in the conference swing yet, but
Me too.
stay
I'm
tuned.
so sorry.
Next year, man,
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, guys, we have a tough show today, and I wanna get us started, and then I'm going to, let you join in, but I am gonna read this statement because I really wanna make sure I communicate as clearly as possible to our listeners, that today's show is going to be a little different. We have made the decision this week to bring this chapter of the show to a close. And the reasons are public, and I'm going to speak to them directly. So, Dave and Brandon are on with me, and they're going to talk a little bit as well about what comes after this chapter of Generation on the Rise. We began this show roughly 7 months ago with a vision of bringing young voices in the field of professional municipal management and engaging those voices. And we are saying goodbye to you, dear listeners, and want to share right now what is on our hearts and minds. I will begin with the difficult decision this week to ask Eden to step down. He has been an important force from the beginning of this show and has fulfilled my hopes that we can bring minds together, disagree, debate, and build relationship at the same time. However, as you may have learned, Eden was recently asked to leave his position as municipal manager. Here's what is public. On April 13th, the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to terminate Eden, less than 1 year into his tenure. The board declined to share the reasons, citing personnel policy. This by itself is the very stuff of this podcast. Municipal managers have difficult and challenging milieus to work in, and unexpected exits take a heavy toll on this profession. We have touched on the various factors that can lead to abrupt departures and the uncertainty that comes with leadership. However, on Monday, May 11th, at a public board meeting at the township, a senior municipal employee made the weighty decision to represent and speak for employees to better inform the community as to why the board had asked Eden to leave. He stated that employees were targeted, unfairly treated, and harassed. Although the board did not assign cause at the time of his departure, this public testimony required us on this podcast to take stock of what it meant for the show built around the central role of professional management in local government. We do not have all the facts and cannot speak in more detail. Neither does the public or Eden by his own account, who was not given the findings of the investigation. This is not a small thing to say, and it is not an exoneration. It is simply the truth of what we know and do not know. However, that the venue in which this account was delivered in a public meeting after a board had bound itself to silence is itself worth pausing on. It is not the way personnel matters typically come to public view, and it is not the way many of us in this field would wish them to. But it is what happened, and it requires us to respond. Employees do not come forward without great risk and cost. We understand it is the employees who create the value in an organization, and we respect their efforts to be heard. While this is a difficult dilemma for us, the recovery of the organization is paramount and will be the greater challenge. We will move on each in our own way. We walk away from this podcast with greater depth of understanding of the nuances of building in public, which is what we have been doing, and vulnerability comes with it. I have been extremely impressed with the work and achievements of this podcast crew from the beginning. We may have reached a closure, but go forward we will. My hope is that we find a way to continue to lift and give support to the voices of the generation coming into their own in this profession. I'm going to turn it now over to Dave and Brandon to share their perspective, and then I'm going to return with a few closing thoughts. Dave, you want to go next?
Actually, I was going to yield the floor to Brandon, and just to make sure that I don't say the same thing you both do.
Well, I'll certainly go next. It is a weighty decision, right? We have enjoyed getting together every week, having conversations. I've found it therapeutic in a sense, for myself, having an outlet to talk about things that there's no way to train on, right? The situation that Nancy spoke of, they don't teach that when you go to be a public manager, right? And I've often found great value, and this is what was one of the impetuses for having this show, this podcast. 7 months ago, we started with, even before that, Nancy, I think it was like a year ago, we started having the conversation of, there are people out there that don't want to be lectured to. They want to be part of a conversation, and they want to be a part of a conversation on all the things that people tend to not talk about, right? Politics in the
Yeah.
workplace. How do you say apolitical in a very political environment? My biggest regret is not duking it out on residency requirements, but, it is those type of topics that, you don't get formal training on, that we wanted to elevate and bring light to. And I will say this podcast has been widely successful. Not only in my view, because I've enjoyed getting together with all of you on a weekly basis, talking about stuff and, just deepening our friendship with one another. But as I was telling, I don't think I've said it on the podcast, there are places where I am going that they recognize me from being on the podcast, which is, honoring, humbling, whatever. That's not what I do it for or what we do it for. But the fact that people are listening and that they're deriving value from the conversation, that is what I take pride in. And as Nancy was saying, even though we are moving on, each in our own way, and this chapter is coming to a close, we welcome people, listeners, colleagues to continue having those type of conversations, right? Bring light to those after the conference bar dialogues, one of which I had last night with some fellow colleagues, right? Um, but continue having those. And, it may be a little while before one or more of us, come back and you're listening to us again. But look forward to that day when, one or more of us are back on the stream, and we welcome you to listen in and learn and engage.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so thank you. I won't say really anything about the Middletown situation except to say that Eden's a friend, and I wish him the best. I'm sure we all do in his
Yeah.
next chapter. I'm sure there will be one. Middletown's going to be fine. Stephanie Tioli's out there, and they're going to find their next manager, and the future is bright for them too. So wish everybody involved in that situation on any side all the best going forward. I will say, and this might maybe add hopefully a little bit of substance to what we've Nancy and Brandon have talked about so far, is that a few years ago, I was on a panel in executive development, and it was facilitated by the great Carolyn McCreary in Montgomery Township. I don't remember the premise of the panel exactly, but one of the questions was about what advice the panelists would give to the audience that was listening. And when it was my turn, I said very simply, in this profession, it's a lot easier to get things done when people like you. And I know how that sounds. It sounds kind of superficial, disingenuous, sophomoric, whatever you want to call it. But the reality is it's true. Think about the great people that helped you get started in your career, the people that you admire most in your profession, whatever it might be. And think about what the qualities are that you admire most about those people. Is it because they're great at the jobs that they do? Is it because, in our case, they're great at writing ordinances or drafting agendas or doing the nuts and bolts kinds of things that municipal managers have to do every day? Or is it because they have a kind of magnetic quality about them that makes people want to learn from them, that makes people want to absorb their traits and be able to become the kinds of leaders that they aspire to be? And the commonality amongst all of those, and I don't care what kind of leader you are, anywhere from Dr. King to Jim Jones, the one common trait that leaders have is that people want to follow them. And obviously you want them to follow the right leaders, but you're not going to be able to lead if nobody wants to follow you. People want to see you succeed in a leadership role if you want to see them be successful. And you can't fake that. You can't phone it in. You've got to be genuinely interested and invested in their success as employees, as people. You've got to be empathetic. You've got to have a high degree of social intelligence, which we've talked about on this podcast. You have to have a high degree of emotional intelligence. It's important that as the next generation of leaders takes management positions, that they really take stock of that. because it's easy in this profession and in local government in general to try to be somebody that you are not, to try to be the kind of person that you think is what your board or your community wants you to be. But the more you push back on your disposition, on the character traits that you have developed throughout your life, the more disingenuous that's going to appear. And the more people are going to catch on to that. And the more they're going to become suspicious of your motives and how you're trying to lead your organization. I would much rather have somebody who's flawed in a position of leadership, but is genuine with their intentions and is genuine with their investment in their staff and in their community and doing the right thing and making people successful, than having somebody who is trying to do what they think other people want them to do and is really having, is really making things difficult by going against the grain. I see it a lot in this industry. I don't advocate, I'm not a proponent of cancel culture. I do think cancel culture has infiltrated to a degree this profession. We know people in our orbits that have made mistakes in the past and have been scapegoated or, for whatever reason have been blacklisted and are having difficulties finding their next job because they were convicted in the court of public opinion, or there was vitriol that made its way through the social media channels and the rumor mill. And right or wrong, accurate or inaccurate, it now becomes a part of that individual's resume for the rest of their career. And that's not fair to them either. It doesn't mean to say that there are not things that we do in our profession that are not cardinal sins. In other words, not things that there are things that we could do that we can't rebound from. Fraud, embezzlement, theft. There are actions that municipal managers can get involved in and take that are so, awful, egregious, that you would not want to see them be in that position in the future. But there's a lot of space between where people are finding themselves in their career trajectory and having to rebuild their personalities for actions that they've taken that may not rise to that level, that might have been learning experiences for them, that maybe they are better managers and better leaders as a result of. And I ask you, is it fair to say that that person will never have another opportunity to be a leader in an organization again? Or is it fair to say that if they've learned from it, if they've grown from that experience, that they'll be a stronger leader because of it? So, understanding that a lot of things can be true at the same time, I just want to convey to our listening audience the importance of being yourself and trying to do what's best for the people that you are in charge of, that you are asked to lead and asked to, be able to direct in service to the community. Because the more you invest in their success, the more they will in turn invest in yours. And if you're successful and they're successful, so is your governing body, so is your board, so is your community, and that's what matters most. To the subject of this podcast, yeah, I've had a great time doing this. I really appreciate you putting this together, Nancy, Brandon. It's been a blast. Talking residency requirements and gas-powered leaf blowers with you for the last couple of months. It was great. We're, getting to know Eden a little bit. It was great talking to some of the guests that we've had. I think that we can close this chapter very proud of the dialogue that we've facilitated here in this platform and the kind of provocative subjects that we dove a little bit more deeply into than what you might get to hear at a conference session or in other venues, just because we had the freedom to be able to talk, off the record, I guess, a little bit, in ways that we might not otherwise get in our professional consortiums. So we did push the envelope a little bit, not too far. We weren't shock jocks. We weren't just trying to get clickbait kinds of things and people to listen to us because they wanted to hear next time Brandon was going to drop an F-bomb. We talked about substantive things and things that we envisioned at the start of this podcast would be a barstool kind of conversational approach. We really achieved that goal. I mean, I think the four of us have a lot to be proud of in that regard, and it's flattering that we had people out there in the in the world at large that found our subjects to be interesting enough that they tuned in. I mean, that really is an expression of appreciation and an honor that I feel very touched by. So thanks to anybody who is listening to this and who has listened in the past. Look forward to the next chapter. I will, as I know you will, Nancy and Brandon and Eden too, give every breath that we have to give back to this profession that's been so rewarding to us. And just look forward to, whatever projects we can collaborate on in the future. Thank you.
Wow, you almost got me emotional there, Dave. I mean, I feel like both of you have matured so much through this process. Like that.
Don't tell anybody. I don't want them to know
Well,
that.
I'm just
I don't want them
saying,
to
No,
know
I
I'm
want
you are
Nancy-
a
mature.
man who is not
I want
done
Nancy to tell
with
my
this.
wife that.
Yeah.
I mean, you both are naturals, but the fact that you just delivered that, Dave, without even looking at your notes or anything,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a lot to say. And Brandon is just in the world, so curious, and I'm so excited to learn from you, Brandon. And both of you, I feel like you have already made a huge rise just through this podcasting experience. And I really feel like almost without words to say my thanks and just my belief in you and what you're doing. And I do think there is just more to be said. And we're going to take some time and gather ourselves. This has not been easy. To go through this in public is just really difficult. And so I appreciate both of you coming on to do this final, goodbye. And I hope we are able to keep building for a long time. I've been wanting to build community that enhances what you already do formally through your conferences. I feel like this podcast has come the closest to doing that because you all are having these other conversations that comes out of this podcasting conversation. So that is just as much as I could have hoped for. So I just want to thank you both, and to our listeners, I wish you all the best, and that just take care of each other. That would be my final words. Take care of each other.
All
Beautifully
right.
said.
Well,
I think
well said. Now you're going to get me emotional. This is a tough
I didn't put my-
goodbye, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't put my contacts in for a reason.
But we all know Brandon is a crier. I mean, he's unapologetic. He's an emotional cat, and that's what we love about him. And we will tell his wife that he has matured. We'll make sure that she gets that message. Mrs. Ford, your husband's he's a deep guy. You know that, I'm sure.
I don't think she'll believe you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I
Well.
wouldn't if I were her. Yeah, well, yeah. So, who's going to take us out? We didn't really orchestrate this. I want to tell our listeners that we cannot overemphasize how little preparation we did for these episodes.
This was
Which was
very quick.
intentional.
Yeah.
It was intentional.
Yeah.
Not just this one, but all of them. I mean, that's a blanket statement. We
Yeah.
tried to wing it. We tried to, be as genuine,
Be
and,
authentic, right? That's the
authentic
word.
as we could be, to try to make this seem as conversational and as improvisational as it could, and I think we achieved that goal. So,
I
Nancy, why
think the
don't you
best.
take us
Yeah,
out since
go ahead.
Well, I just would like you all to know that you have a home here. So let's just keep rebuilding and stay engaged. Thank you so much for being who you are and for coming together. But all three of you, very natural and yet unique. So it's
That was the
been a
secret
real
sauce.
interesting. It's the secret sauce.
Well,
So
thank you,
absolutely?
Targus,
Thank
everybody, for
you.
listening.
thank you, everyone, and
Nah.
be well.
Okay.
Take
All right,
care of
be well.
yourselves.
Bye
All
bye.
We'll
right,
see you.
bye, everybody.
Bye.